Hello everyone and welcome back to the Retro Recall. I hope you're doing awesome. Today we have another beautiful desktop PC on the bench. We have a Compaq Prolinea 575. And these are one of those systems that I have been looking for quite a while. And, I was scrolling through eBay and scrolling through Facebook Marketplace, and I found this on Facebook Marketplace down in the US, and the seller was very kind to package it up quite well for me and send it up to Canada here. And really excited to get this specific model on the bench today to go over. And these are one of those systems, like I said, I had seen in various friends' homes, and I've also seen in business environments. They also had the Compaq Desk Pro line and a few other lines, and they also came with different configurations. So you had the 486 line and these type of, form factors as well, all the way up to Pentium 200s and above. So definitely a beautiful sight to see this on the bench. So you know what? We have lots to do today. Let's go right to it. And here we go. We're back. And again, just always a beautiful sight when I see these sort of older form factors, in the collection. We do a lot of towers on the channel, and we have a lot of, later retro PCs, in terms of P4s and Core 2 Duos and Pentium 3s and things. But when you have an earlier Pentium, even before the MX line, it's great to see these here and, see what their limitations were at the time, where at the time you would think they were very much their strengths. So, in the front, we have the Compaq Prolinea 575 marking here. And overall, the case is in very decent shape. We have a couple of lights here, one for the power and the hard drive activity. Some ventilation looks like down here, as part of the design. We have a CD-ROM drive, will be my guess, is what this is. Specifically what speed, I'm not sure. It is a lot lighter in color compared to the rest of the yellowing that's already been done by the UV light here. So I'm not exactly sure if this has been replaced or not. Probably. It would be nice to get something closer to it, or again, getting something retro-brighted, in the front here, in the case repainted as part of a restoration. So the front here, we also have this plastic kind of bezel here with a floppy drive in behind. And I've noticed that the floppy drive kind of flap here doesn't actually close. I don't know what's hitting there. It's not very evident in the front, but I did try a floppy disk just to see, and it works and ejects just fine. And there's absolutely no grinding, no issues when I do this, and it's very responsive. So I'm not worried about the actual drive mechanics per se, more so around, what's kind of grabbing that from closing all the way. And again, just trying to understand, is this just mounted in behind this bezel? That's probably what's going on here. Because this is, again, just kind of part of the front bezel design. So it'd be nice to get that fixed up. And we also have a 5 1/4 expansion area here as well. These systems, I do remember some coming with a 5 1/4 inch floppy drive bay. I've seen a couple with dual optical drives with the floppy disk drive here as well. Again, depending on the configuration. So it's neat to see that expansion on the front here. We have the power button here on the front, and we also have, I just want to bring attention to, over here we have this kind of design and this bezel finished off, and this looks like it's been taken off somehow. Okay, on the side here, not much to see. So we have just the side and the back, and we continue that same kind of coloring and design in the back. And then so on the back of the system itself, let's scroll around here. Here we go. Turn it around. We have just, fairly straightforward design here. So we have 3 thumb screws here that I imagine when you unscrew those, the top case comes off. And just for full transparency, I haven't had this open yet. The seller showed pictures of it running no problem, and I trust that it does. If not, well, we'll work on it and get it going. We have what looks like the power supply mounted by these 4 screws here, and the fan outlet, the power here connection, and then a toggle between 115 and 230 volts. So just very important to always, especially when you get these from away, always make sure, even though this did come from the US, and the US and Canada have the same power grid, just be mindful of those things, because, you never know when that's been switched one way or another. So on the front here, on the back here, sorry, we have, I should say on the top here, we have a blank that's kind of just screwed in there. We have a sound card, not sure the brand, but we have our 3 sound ports plus our game port. We also have a modem that's mounted here. We have the 2 modem ports as well as what looks like the mic and speaker. So very possible this has speakerphone capability here as well, which is, again, at the time would have been a nice feature to have. Here we have a blank that's opened up. So here we have just another blank panel, slightly larger than the rest of the system. So again, not knowing exactly what would have gone in here, we'll have to take a look. Then we have what's, just a serial port here. We have a parallel port already built on. I imagine that's right onto the motherboard itself. 2 PS2, so one for the mouse and one for the keyboard. We have the indicators for here as well. And then we have VGA out here. So yeah, I mean, pretty straightforward in terms of the I/O on the back. We do have some expansion that's in the system. What expansion you do with a Pentium 75 of this era, again, it's just around what we decide to do and what we find and discover on the inside of the system. Let's continue turning around just to see. Okay, so the side, again, identical to the other side, except this side you can see the complete kind of view of it with the front finish there that's on the front here. So again, if you see that or have a link to that anywhere, let me know and I can certainly order it and complete this look of this system. Okay, so what we're going to do next is just open up the actual case itself. I just want to take a look here and see what is inside. So there's just 3 thumb screws here. Okay, so they just open up and then they kind of just freely hang there so you don't lose them. Similar to other systems, so you don't lose the thumb screw. And then we have one at the top here. That's in there quite tight. Okay, we'll unscrew that as well. And we'll just open that up. Oh, that does come all the way out, but we'll just kind of set that back in there so we don't lose it. And then we'll just kind of move that. Okay, there we go. So it's just literally, that's it. So we'll open it up like this. And there we are. We have the inside of the Pentium 75 system. And I'm saying it's Pentium 75 because that is what the seller indicated it was. And again, not knowing 100%, we haven't powered it up just yet. And there we are. There's the inside look of the system. So we have some expansion ISA slots here on the board. We also have kind of like, this is the daughter board here, the riser board, and then we have the motherboard down here as well. I'm going to take a screwdriver here just so we can kind of remove some of these, just so we can get an eye on exactly what's going on here. And we'll remove our sound card and see what it is. Again, just an ISA sound card. We'll move this audio cable going to the optical drive as well. And there we are. We have our first kind of culprit of the day. Pretty generic card from what I'm seeing. It says Advanced Logic Inc. chipset ALS 120. And it says A381-F20 is the model information. I would really love to throw a Sound Blaster card in here, even a Sound Blaster 16 card, a full card. That's more, for me, would be more of the era. But again, argument's sake, it depends on what you like and what you want to do there. And this is the first time I'm seeing a PCI expansion here as well. So that does open up some possibilities, potentially in a VGA card, a graphics card. Are we talking like a Voodoo 2 card, maybe a Voodoo card, just something of the era that would be more specific for the system? So it's giving me a couple ideas here now that I see a PCI expansion there. Okay, the next one that we have here is our next card, I should say, is our modem card. I'm going to open that up as well and see what it is for a modem. I say we have a couple of PCI slots. Well, that's good to know. Okay, so the modem itself, I'm just taking a look here to see exactly what we have. It's a Connexent chipset, RP56D-SP. And I'm seeing what else do we have here. We have a Rockwell 97 chipset there as well. There's a JTON, J-T-O-N. There we go. So we have a JTON modem here. It says modulator V.90. Serial numbers on there, and then made in the USA. So, whether this was added later or not, it probably was, but it's a couple great ISA cards to have. Okay, I'm not going to dwell on that too much more. We now have access to the actual system itself. So I really like this daughter board configuration. In the form factors that these came in, these desktop form factors, 9 times out of 10, they had the riser card. That's what happened. They had a daughter board with the riser card that would, you can see here that this motherboard itself is kind of slid into this riser card here, or it'd be vice versa, where you'd remove these components take off this back panel here, and then this would kind of pop out, because you can see the slide here. Looks like the motherboard is actually into this edge connector here. So it's important to be mindful of that when you're doing any sort of work on these systems. And then so the very bottom card, if you look, it looks like an ISA, but it also has this extra little part here. And what that is, when I understand from the seller, this extra little part here was a proprietary connector. Keep me honest in the comments, but a proprietary connector here that would allow you to hook up a sound card. And that is what went in this kind of specialized bracket that I outlined here earlier on the back that's already been, kind of blanked out. And the picture of it's right here. And you can see the edge of that connector there that shows that extra little bit. So just, having a dedicated area on this daughter board for that would allow the additional expansion cards to be utilized for other things. So really cool to have that. And overall, it's a little dusty, the board, but overall, it is not in terrible shape. You can see the coloration where I just wiped there compared to the rest of the board. Yes, there's a thin layer of dust on here. For today's video and the scope of today's video, I just want to get this powered up and see what we can, kind of see what it can do, and just give you a general overview of what was in the system. Okay, and over here we have our processor, which I believe, as I mentioned earlier, is our Pentium 75 CPU. And I'm not going to remove it right now just because it was shown as tested and working. I'm not going to do anything to kind of disturb that at the moment. If we do a much deeper, thorough cleaning, of course, I'll take it out and take a look. But I believe this is a socket 5 is the interface for this Pentium 75 that is in here. Yeah, so we have some Compaq branding on the motherboard. We have it on the daughter board here as well. It tells you what to replace this board with in terms of the Compaq spare model information. It says it's a backplane ISA CMB, so I imagine it's combo PCI 220 is what's written on there. It says copyright 1994 Compaq, and then it says diagram number. So I'm looking at all the different tantalums. I'm looking at the different capacitor. We have a capacitor over here on the board. It's looking to be in decent shape. The one thing to note here as well is over here we have the battery, the CR, whatever it is in terms of battery, and it is soldered directly onto the motherboard. I'm just taking a look here, and I want to make sure that, when we go to take this apart, it is something we're going to do in a future video when we, talk about some expansion here. It'll be good to desolder that from the motherboard and put one of those coin cell holders in there and replace it with something that is removable. So nothing too fancy to do. We just would desolder that. We put in one of the coin cell holders and put in a CR 2032 battery. Again, pretty straightforward. We have some expansion headers here as well on the motherboard. It looks like these two kind of just, I don't know if that's something that would sit on top of here specifically, but they're very, very much in line. I'd have to look up the model information on this motherboard itself and see what kind of expansion possibilities they had here. But, overall, lots and lots of room in here for different things if you wanted to do. We also have some dip switches here. We also have a couple of jumpers, things like that. And I'm not sure exactly 100% if that is for the CPU or what have you, but I know that there's some information up top here on the sticker, which we'll show in a minute, that will actually tell you exactly what to do in terms of if you wanted to expand this processor. So, from what I'm seeing at first glance, and go up to 120 megahertz, from a 75. So you'd have to obviously change the clock frequency and things like that. So definitely really awesome to see. Okay, so we have some memory that's installed here, and these are the plastic design, which is not a favorite of mine, just because they break off, like the side's already broken off on one of them. So I'm just being very careful to just let them loose very easily, because the plastic ones, they just snap off. Like this one snapped off here, this one snapped off here, this one's about to snap off. So yeah, it's just good to take a look at that. So what do you have for memory? From what I understand from the original picture, these were 8 meg modules, so we had 16 megabytes of memory. So it'd be also good to potentially get this upgraded to maybe the 32 megabytes of memory or something, just to give it a little bit more ability for, any speed or anything like that, or expansion. But it has 6 expansion slots here as well, so you definitely had a lot of options to do more with it. Okay, let's flip it around here just to see what we have for our optical area. So as I noted earlier, let's get adjusted here. As I noted earlier, we have a diagram on front. So here on the diagram itself, it says Compaq, and then it shows kind of a diagram of the motherboard. So we have our memory module. It says add memory in pairs. So it's even telling you to make sure you do that. So very important we do that. And it says processor and upgrade sockets. So obviously it's saying, hey, you know, you can potentially upgrade this. So it says external clock CMOS battery connector P3 in the top right. So it's nice to have that. So you could theoretically switch between using the onboard one that's already soldered to the motherboard and use an external header instead, which is pretty awesome to be able to do that. You know, on the older systems, if you had to do that, like a Varda type system, they recharge the battery. So you got to make sure that you actually switch a jumper to tell it not to do that if you're using an external header. So it says here, external clock battery. Then it says here, select internal battery or select external battery. So I imagine the same thing applies here. So if I go to do that, I'm just going to remove that from the board completely, probably use an external header and call it a day, just because it's quite simple to replace that way. Again, there's different methods you can use. If I'm able to find a replacement, I'm happy to do so, but I'm not too worried about it leaking. So we have a VESA connector here as well. So there it is. This is VESA connector, so you can add additional expansion. Then we have 1 megabyte video memory expansion socket. Yeah, but so looking at the actual motherboard itself, you can see that it had the ability to pop on an additional memory module addition there, which I think is pretty darn cool. Then so switch SW1 is your power on password jumper, allows power on password security feature and clears power on password. So, you know, that's just the ability to do that. And those are the little dip switches that we saw there, as well as the jumper there. And then down here, which is SW1 processor clock speed. So it says here external, internal megahertz. 5075, 6090, 5100, and 6120. We have, I believe, a 5075, so a Pentium 75 that's in there now. And looking at that rate at the moment for SW1, I'm looking at that, and it is showing one is flipped on, and the other one is flipped off. So on off is showing 5075. So again, that reinforces what we're talking about in terms of the processor clock speed. We have a quantum hard drive in the system. I think this is original to the system. And the reason I say that is because it does have the Compaq sticker here. Plus it says here, replace with a Compaq spare. So again, it gives the model information if you need to replace the hard disk. So you have quantum, it says 3.5-inch series. It has a different jumpers here to show master slave, slave park, and cable select. So the model is 1080AT. So it'll be interesting to see what the size of this particular drive is. I'm not 100% sure at the moment. So again, without digging too deep into the system here, we do have what looks like a 5.25-inch floppy connectors here. We have that connector for them. So we have 2 of them here as well. We have quite a bit of wiring kind of jammed up here because of the optical drive that we have inside. And, you know, we could do a bit to get this all kind of removed and taken apart, but there's no motherboard that's under here. This is all strictly just the expansion, and the wiring all goes underneath to that daughter board, kind of layered on the back there that shows all the different IDE headers. And then we have our power supply here. It says here our output is 145 watt power supply, and again, original to the system, has the original Compaq label here, as well as the Compaq branded power supply. And then we have our power connectors going to the daughter board from the power supply. So I think this is a pretty well-rounded system. Yeah, it's a little dirty, but nothing too bad. So I definitely want to see what we can do to get this up and running, to see if we can get the system posted and see if we're able to get it going. So what I like to do is just put the cards back in the system here to make sure we can get the system up and running, get it posted, and just kind of do an overview of see what's on the system. Because again, for the scope of today's video, as I mentioned, I got this. So I just want to really see if we can get this up and running. And I really want to hear from you in the comments about what you think we should do with this system. You know, are we going to, you know, potentially swap out the sound card, the generic sound card that we have here with the Sound Blaster 16 card, or maybe not 32. You know, it's possible we have that as well. And then the same thing with the modem. I'm just going to pop that in there anyway, because that's what was in there. But, you know, do you need to use the resources with the modem? Not sure. Again, you guys know on this channel, I like to use whatever I find in these systems and keep them in there for keeping them as original as possible. We also have some memory here. Like I mentioned, we have the 16 megs of RAM, which I believe is what these are. We'll put them in there for now. But again, let me know what we should pump this up to. You know, is it 32 we'd like to see? Is it 64 megabytes of RAM? And again, we'll see what is on here, see if the hard drive fires up, and see if we're actually able to get this system running. Before we do that, let's just pop in some contact cleaner. Again, just because I have it here, I like to make sure that the RAM slots are good here. So we have all that. And you gotta be so careful with these plastic ones. It's unfortunate that they made them in the plastic because it just continues to bend there. The metal ones are much stronger, but even the metal ones are mounted on plastic. You want to be very careful even with those. All right, so I'm going to pop in these two here. I believe that's where they were. And there's the audio cable again. So we'll get that in here as well. We have that in there. And I'm going to put in those screws again, just because I don't want to lose them, and then we'll get this system fired up. Okay, and we're back, and we're all set back up on the bench with our trusty HP monitor. Not throwing a CRT on it just for now. We want to keep everyone's eyes from getting headaches, our minds getting headaches. So, but what we do have here is we have our Compaq, our Prolinea 575, but we also have one of the keyboards I found in my stash, which is a Compaq PS2 keyboard. These are quite heavy, built quite well. It is dirty, 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 but we can include that in the full restoration video on this beautiful system. And we also have a matching Compaq mouse, ball mouse as well. So, you know, just a complete package. I think all we need really is a Compaq CRT to really finish up the look here. The monitor's turned on. We're ready to go. Gonna hit the power button and see what happens. System's powering up. Keyboard came to life. System options not set. Date and time not set. And that's to be expected. The battery is drained. So the following configuration options were automatically updated. So disk type 65. So if you're running Unix, you need to configure your system using the Compaq User Diagnostics diskette, which we're not. And it shows that, so totally memory installed is 32 megs of RAM. So we have two 16 megabyte sticks. So that's a nice thing to see. Coprocessor has been added. Diskette drives, CMOS checksum and val default values loaded. So we are going to save the changes to see if we can get the system posting, but you know, that's pretty darn good sign so far. And this is to be expected when you have a dead battery inside the computer, because that coin cell battery on the motherboard that's soldered, which we want to eventually either replace a soldered one or use the external header, we want to get to a point where it saves. That's the purpose of it. It saves all the configuration data, so that every time you turn on the computer, it just automatically knows all this information. We're going to save changes for now, F1, and see what happens next. Okay, so it's complaining about the time and date again. So now it's saving the configuration using the power. Now it's warning me, do you want to boot or do you want to go into the computer setup? Let's go into the computer setup just to see what is on here. So it says mouse driver, so it says searching for mouse, so it found it. Here we are, English, select this line and press enter, so that's our language. And this utility is provided to help you set up and test or diagnose your computer. You should use this utility when you want to change the computer's configuration and when you want to change or test your computer's options. To continue the next screen, press enter. And I'm not seeing a mouse just yet, but we will definitely hit enter on that. So we have Compaq utilities, our computer setup, security management, power management, and computer checkup test. So let's go into our computer setup just to see what's there. And so our date and time, it is not 1980, but we are going to change it just because in case if there is an operating system on here, that it doesn't affect anything on here. Retrieving information, please wait. So we've set the date and time. It won't keep it the next time we turn off the computer, but at least we have the date and time set enough for it to move forward. And our mouse icon is now showing, but again, I'm not getting a mouse cursor moving. Okay, so here's the result. It says IRQ4 is used by multiple devices. I'll hit OK on that just to see. And it's not giving me anything else. It took quite a bit just to get to that screen, so there's definitely some sort of conflict going on here. And I'm not exactly sure what that would be. And it's hard to go in and configure this unless you're able to get into the setup to do so. The numlock key is now frozen, so we'll give it a few more minutes just to see if it comes back. If not, we'll do a reboot and see what other options we have within the BIOS. Okay, and we're back, and I waited for another 30 minutes roughly, and was hitting the numlock key, and then I tried the good old three-fingered salute here, Control-Alt-Delete, and unfortunately nothing worked. The system had completely locked up. So whatever is IRQ4 is completely hanging up the system when it comes into the BIOS utilities. I think, in terms of troubleshooting that, I would remove the ISA cards from the computer just to minimize any sort of additional addressing that's being done. Potentially even the optical drive, go one step further. And I would do that just for the troubleshooting, just to get into that and then see, whether it's selecting cards or telling it to auto-configure. I think part of this problem, of course, is not having the battery working correctly to remember the settings. So, because every time I power the system off, it just completely forgets everything I've done. I want to make sure that we get that as part of the next chapter in the series of this system. Okay, so under computer checkup, let's click on test to see what happens. No Compaq diagnostics are intended for testing only Compaq supplied components. Testing of non-Compaq components may be inconclusive. All right. Does it give us an option? See a list of all devices installed in this machine. See if it picks up on the extra devices that we have and potentially shows the IRQs that they're using. Okay, here we are. It says the Compaq devices listed below were detected in your system. If this list is correct, you may need to run setup. So we have the Compaq Prolinea 575, so Pentium 75 with our coprocessor 387 compatible. We have secondary cache of 256K plus our memory of 32 meg. Our keyboard, pointing device, parallel, graphics card are all listed there. Let's keep on going down here. Drive controller hard drive is 1.1 gig, so type 65. So we know the size now of our hard drive. And our COM1 is sitting at IRQ4. So that's definitely helpful to help troubleshoot this. So something is conflicting with COM1. And so it's something we should look into. Embedded IDE controller, unknown CD-ROM drive, that's fine. And let's keep on going down here. Actually, one thing I'll do is it says unknown CD-ROM drive position 1, but it's detecting as a Compaq CRD 8322B. So it's very possible this is the original drive that was in the system. Is it just an 8-speed? Is it a 32-speed? Again, not knowing exactly what it is, I'll have to look that model up. So continuing on here, it shows video ROM is Cirrus. So we'll just hit OK on that for now. I just wanted to see what kind of features were part of the BIOS. It's pretty handy if you were having some problems with some hardware. Obviously, we're having something to do with the IRQ conflict, but that's something I'll have to take a look at that. So view system information, inspect. Let's click on that. It says retrieve network, retrieve storage. Then we have our keyboard, enhanced keyboard, system ports, our LPT1 and COM1 are active. System storage, so we have an unknown CD-ROM, it says, yet it gives us the model. Disk drive A and our hard drive as well is listed. It's Quantum Fireball 1080A. Okay, that's great. Oh, I love how that it also tells you the cylinder heads and tracks. So great to note for future, because I didn't see that written on the hard drive itself. Graphics mode is 12, so 640 by 480 graphics. Integrated graphics controller. It'd be really cool to see that updated in a future video. Our memory, so it shows the slots, so our bank 1, bank 2, and bank 3. So that's why it said install in pairs, and then it's able to do that. So see the base system memory, or the total compact memory is 32 megabytes. And the base memory here, we have 640K, showing amount free is 558, which is awesome, and then our extended memory as well. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Operating system, MS-DOS 6 that we have currently installed on there. I think it's a pretty handy utility to be able to go in here and do things. Assuming that we could actually access the setup, it would be pretty cool. So we have create a diagnostics diskette. I think that's something we can include in a second part to this. Manage diagnostics partition. Again, because it looks like this is, is there actual diagnostics on the actual hard drive? Is this original? We'll have to look at that, inspect that if we go into an OS, and then exit from this utility. So we'll exit for now. Exit and restart your computer. Press Enter to return to the main menu. Press Escape. We're going to hit Enter to exit. So let's see what happens next. I just love this system. Like I said, I have been looking for one of these for quite a long time. I love this era of computing. Pentium 75 when the Compaq 575 was out. We were running Windows 3.1, running Windows 95. at that time when we're utilizing these systems. And, you know, you had WordPerfect on for DOS installed on them in the business environments. It was always a race to be able to see what you can do to upgrade the computer that you had. We have Windows 95, Microsoft Internet Explorer. I see the resolution's off a bit here, the alignment on the screen, but I think that's the LCD. Let's see if it corrects itself when it goes into the OS. Which I love hearing the old spinning rust. Okay, so we have Welcome to Windows 95. You can use your right mouse button to click anywhere to see menu available commands. We're going to close for now. So it looks like a very generic copy of Windows 95. So the seller definitely just made sure that the system was operational before sending it my way, which is awesome. So thank you very much, and thank you for watching and supporting the channel as well. And then so you can see the date and time. I mean, obviously it's incorrect. Remember at the beginning in the video, I was trying to get that corrected, but since then we had to restart it a couple times. So when we get that battery fixed, we'll be able to maintain the clock. So yeah, pretty fine for that. Let's go into properties for my computer. And we have Microsoft Windows 95 version 4B. Registered to owner, and our computer is a Pentium, 32 megs of RAM. So under Device Manager, our CD-ROM drive is listed. It's the Compaq CD-ROM drive. So you know what? Chances are this is original. So scratch what I said earlier. I think that's pretty cool. And we have a Type 65 generic IDE disk, but we know that's our Quantum Fireball, 1.1 gig. Our display adapters is a Cirrus Logic 5434 PCI. Again, something we should look into about upgrading because we know we have a PCI expansion slot. So I think that's a great candidate for a Voodoo card. Let's keep on going down here. We have our modem, just standard 28.8 modem. So that's what we have. You know, at the time, you can get away with using the generic drivers for some of these modems. I know US Robotics could operate whether you chose a USR driver or standard using the Windows drivers, but you couldn't always utilize all the features if you didn't use the US Robotics or the manufacturer's drivers. But in this case, you can get away with that. And then our monitors, just our plug and play that's detecting. Our mouse, the same thing, just pretty standard. And our ports is our COM and our printer ports. So again, need to find that conflict here eventually. And you know, if you go into your hardware profiles for this, you can actually see that I believe, yeah, there it is. It's using IRQ4. So through this process, I should be able to also detect what else is utilizing that, but we'll do that another time. Okay, so sound, video, and game controllers. So we have our ALS120. And then it just shows our Wave audio device, internal MIDI OPL3. So it does support that, which is awesome. Our joystick device, which is our, our game port in the back. And then we have our external MIDI output MPU 401 device. So all in all, pretty capable card. But, again, I'd like to have, a nice Sound Blaster card in here, potentially upgrade the memory in this computer, do some other things with it. Let's go under my computer for a second, just verify the C drive here. And that's our, we said 1.1, but with formatting and all those good things, we have 1 gigabyte. And I won't touch a thing on this. I think this is absolutely wonderful. I think having the C drive of that size, of that era, really puts it towards what it is. So I'm going to take an image of this drive just to have in my library, just because this has already been refreshed with all the proper drivers for the modem and for the sound card and all the different base, system devices that we have here. So the seller would have gone through that. But I'm going to take an image of this just to have. I think what we'll do in terms of next steps, do a cleaning of the actual computer itself, see what we can do in terms of upgrades. I'd like to be able to get that video card updated. I'd like to be able to go in and potentially, I don't know, maybe upgrade the memory, upgrade the sound card, and do some changes to the system. But, I'll rely on you guys to tell me, what should we do in the system? I mean, it's a Pentium 75 running Windows 95. I think that's era specific in terms of an operating system for this system. I think, upgrading the memory, but what do you guys think? Should we do more with it? Should we just keep the 32 megs of RAM and leave it at that? What should we do for the video card? Let me know down in the comments below. Same thing with the sound card. But I think it would be really good to do that. So let's get the cover put back on and get the bench all kind of reconfigured here and do our outro. And here we are, all set back up on the bench, and what a beautiful sight in front of us. We have our almost complete system here. We have our Compaq S700 17-inch monitor with our Prolinea 575, our keyboard, and our mouse, all branded Compaq. So we have a complete system. I say almost complete because, I don't know what Compaq had in terms of speakers back in the day. I'm using some Creatives for now, but yeah, it's really awesome. So I think overall, this is an absolutely worthwhile find. It's such a beautiful system, already set up with Windows 95. It's in amazing condition for the age of the actual computer. Going over all the components, it's not that bad, but I think it needs some TLC. I mean, it needs to be all scrubbed down, cleaned up. The same thing with the inside of the system, I think needs to be disassembled and cleaned as well. And I also think we need some of those much needed upgrades that we talked about earlier. And again, I'll rely on you guys. Let me know, what do you think we should do in terms of the actual upgrades for this system? Are we talking, are we putting a Voodoo card in here? Are we doing something with the sound card? Are we switching over to a Sound Blaster 16 card or an AUD32 or something along those lines? Again, let me know down in the comments. I think, these are great options. We'll make this a future phase of this beautiful Compaq Prolinea 575. If you liked today's video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. It makes a world of difference on the channel, helps the channel grow. Hit that bell icon, change the notification to all. You'll be notified of new content such as this. Please leave a comment down below. Let me know, what should we do with this system? Did you have one of these computers? Did you use it in an office environment? Was it in your home? What sort of things did you do? I'd love to hear it down in the comments. I reply to absolutely every one of my comments. I love the interaction on the channel. Always making new content. Thank you so much for your support. We'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.